the story behind this build, for me, Art actually reached out to me from Vibrant Performance. He actually reached out to me. He's like, you gotta shoot this car. You have to feature this car. And when he said Trans Am, I was like, oh.
Yeah, Riley's.
You guys had a Trans Am. Riley's that we actually shot. Incredible car, but this is completely different.
Completely different,
It's not even in the same realm. It's a different concept, and I just wanted to take a closer look at it. So, what did this start life as?
Started life as a rusted out drag car in Michigan covered in 2 feet of snow. So basically my dad, I think he bought it on eBay, basically went up to Detroit, Michigan. He had to shovel the snow off of it, get in the trailer, and basically we have zero money in the body itself because we took all the powertrain out of it and sold it. So the body costed nothing. And then we started cutting away the body, cutting out all the rust, and we ended up with literally just the roof and some of the cowl. And all we need, and when we started the project, we asked ourselves, what do we really need when we start the car? And we ended up saying, well, we only need a roof and the cowl. So we just kept on working on it and eventually got to this point.
This is such a crazy build because, as you guys can see, there's people surrounding it the whole time, nonstop. So then, what is the rest of it? Just tubes?
So basically, it's, imagine kind of like an LMPH car, DTM, or like a time attack car, but it's using the powertrain of an Indycar. So Indycars are obviously a composite body, but for us, we made it out of tubes. So it's a full tube chassis using Indycar suspension, shocks, transmission, all these, and actually radiators right now. And then actually the front flaps are also, these front corners are actually from an Indycar. So we have a whole bin of carbon bits.
So like what generation Indycar?
So Champ car, so back, or Reynard Indycar. So a lot of the stuff is from the late 90s to the early 2000s.
So where did you even get any of this stuff?
So my dad worked in IndyCar racing for 25 years, and he left around when CART split, the whole Indy split happened.
Yes, I remember that.
So basically what happened is all those teams had no use for the parts anymore. They were basically going to throw them away. So what my dad did is he just bought a bunch of them for cheap, and he was mainly used to the Reynards. So that's what we really kept, is all the Reynard components. So yeah.
He kept all that stuff for that long, thinking he was going to do something like this?
Yeah, actually what's really funny is if you look in here, these gamma connectors, we've had them in a drawer for 20 years. So as long as I've been basically alive, we've had those sitting there. They're like a Wiggins.
So how old are you?
I'm 20.
You're so young.
Yeah, yeah, I'm busy.
But luckily, obviously a lot of your dad has rubbed off on you.
Oh yeah.
And this is what you do, this is like your passion?
Yeah, this is basically any amount of spare time I have has been devoted to this. I'm actually a full-time engineering student at IUPUI studying motorsports engineering, and I do everything everyone else tries to do in 7 days in 5.
Has your instructor seen this?
I've messaged them, I told them I'm gonna be missing school for a week, and they're like, you can do some of your assignments there. I'm like, I don't think so. So I'm gonna be telling them a bit more, but some of them know. Some of them know.
Can you show them this video? Show them this video.
I'll link them. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, what's the actual power plant then?
So obviously that's not from an IndyCar.
Yeah.
It's an LSR from late model engines. So it's, if you know what an LSX is, it's the racing version of that. It's made by the same people who cast it, like Concept Performance, I believe. So it's a full aluminum block, steel sleeved, it's de-stroked, 400 cubic inches. It's built to handle 2,000 horsepower, 9,000 plus RPM. They told us it can handle 9,000 RPM all day, and we're gonna be putting that to the test. So we'll be probably bumping it up to 9,500 occasionally, just because at 9,000 RPM in 6th gear, it can do 203 miles per hour.
Okay, so then is it naturally aspirated?
So it's kind of hard to tell. Some people think it's an EV because you can't even see any exhaust in the car.
Right.
What you're looking at, these aluminum tubes right here, are for the charge tubes coming from the turbo. It's a twin turbo setup from Garrett. They actually approached us and they said, hey, your turbo that you have right now is only good for 1,200 horsepower. And we were like, Well, what are you thinking? They sent us G35 900 turbos and some of their wastegates. It's way down into that cavern, way down below, right behind the seat. Basically, the way the engine breathes is actually from our functional, fully carbon air scoop. So the air scoop, it goes from the air scoop. Yeah, 6.
6. Why 6?
Because basically the highest they originally went to was 5. This is the next iteration. This is Ram Air 6. It's the next step up from Ram Air 5.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've had people where the build was only halfway done and they stuck around for hours just looking at it, and they come back next week and they come back again, and they're always asking about the progress, and eventually it got done.
So then, what's the actual chassis itself?
Fully custom, started off as sticks of steel DOM, and we cut, notched, bent every single one ourselves, and it's welded by yours truly. Actually, kind of the funny thing was when we started this project, I didn't know how to weld at all. So we kind of started off, we jigged up the front and we built the Indycar, some of the front subframe, and we had it all tacked together. And I had some practice pieces, and my welding was functional, but it wasn't pretty. So basically what happened was a fabricator from Aero McLaren Indycar team kind of came over, welded some really crucial stuff, and then he showed me the ropes, and he's like, dude, you got this. It's perfect what you're doing. So I just kept on tinkering on it, making it perfect. So over the course of a year, I basically welded this whole thing up, and the whole exhaust system, the chassis took probably 3,000 hours in itself to finish. It's almost like the birdcage Maseratis. In the way it's constructed, I can provide you some photos of it without the body. It's a whole nother beast.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
When you're doing that, you're actually compressing the spring.
Yeah. Well, and also what's really cool is you're looking at the third device.
Yes.
And you can see it's doing its job.
Right. So that's because that allows the aero to do its thing without actually losing travel.
And mechanical low speed grip. Because the whole purpose of a third device is you don't really need it if your car doesn't have a ton of aero, or like this thing has 2,500 pounds of downforce, and Varus is going to help us get way more. So that device is going to become more and more crucial. But basically, the way the whole front suspension works is that imagine you don't have that third device, and you have 6,000 pounds of downforce. You need springs to counteract that, right?
And then it'll just be such a harsh ride, and you won't have as much dampening.
Yeah, you're sacrificing your low-speed corners. So basically what you do is you add a third device, or heave spring, as most people call it, and some people look at it and believe it's an anti-roll bar device. It does not do any anti-roll bar device. That's what the T-bar and the blade is for. That is what controls the side-to-side anti-roll properties. You can change the thickness of that blade and also the angle of it and the thickness of that T-bar. So once you have that blade full stiff, that T-bar is taking up some of the anti-roll bar, or all of the anti-roll bar properties.
This is super cool too. There's a sensor.
The gear profile, it's got zero backlash. It's a potentiometer. It measures the rocker movement. So basically you can see what the suspension's actually doing and what the shocks are actually doing.
Amazing. Okay, so then the radiators, these are the radiators on the front?
Yes, they are. Yep. We got twin radiator and twin swirl pots.
And then what is that for?
That's a heat exchanger. It's it has 3 different fluids flow through it. It's got radiator, so the water, engine oil, and gearbox oil. We've had that unit for a little bit. We knew that there's some heat going on in some places, so that heat exchanger is really gonna, like if you have a cold engine, it's gonna, and the gearbox is heating up, it's gonna be able to heat up your gearbox.
Got it.
So, but if your engine's getting too hot and the gearbox and the radiators can take up some more temp, it's gonna also do that too.
This is so insane. Like this definitely reminds me of Champ Car or Indycar, the actual hub assembly area. So like that brake duct, is that actually from a Champ
Indycar?
Indycar.
From a Champ Car. You're correct. It's directly off of a Champ Car. Actually, all the suspension from the car is directly off of a '98 Champ Car. Even Forge Line have been really great because if you notice, this center lock design is different. It's off of an Indycar, so we need a custom offset and everything. And so basically we contacted Forge Line. They were able to custom make a 3-piece wheel, fit our center lock design, and new tires. tire that's easier to get.
Because traditionally, this is not meant for such a big wheel, right?
No,
they're tiny.
Yeah, actually, we have a bunch of forged magnesium 15-inch wheels front and rear.
But it wouldn't look right on this.
No, it's pretty cool in itself. It's a different kind of package.
Yeah.
But I mean, the more I see these wheels, the more I'm falling in love with them.
Plus, I mean, I'm assuming this is because a lot of it is metal and it's not like an all carbon.
Yeah.
Or is this all carbon?
Basically, the only thing that's composite on the whole car is obviously that roof scoop, the door panels, the dash. The trunk is carbon. The front hood is fiberglass. The nose is fiberglass. But once we get a more final version of the aero on the car, we want to start converting stuff to carbon.
Oh, this is all
This is steel.
Oh, this is all steel.
Yep,
wow.
It's steel. It's welded by yours truly, and my dad he's been doing a lot of the fabrication, well, all of it, and I help out in some places, but really I've been welding the whole thing up.
So cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's all functional. So there's a waterfall panel in here. So any of the air that gets trapped in the back of this fender will exit through there. Anything that can cause lift exits through here. And there's also any air that gets trapped underneath that hood can exit through this. It's all separated.
So one of the things I was basically alluding to is that it needs brakes, really good brakes, and that's part of
brakes.
Probably the reason why you have a bigger wheel too.
Oh yeah. Actually, Alcon's going to start working with us. They're going to create a carbon ceramic brake package for
Perfect.
it.
That's what you need to stop this thing.
It's going to need some serious grip, some serious power.
Yeah.
So these brakes are actually really good, but they're meant for a 15-inch wheel. And also Veris kind of helped made some modifications because this whole thing the fender's designed to have air flow through it.
You wouldn't think this body shape is good for aero.
It's pretty atrocious.
It's the design way back when they were creating this.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they put it in a wind tunnel or anything to test it.
Well, actually,
it was never meant to even go this fast.
No. I think they might have put it one of the Trans Ams in a wind tunnel at 140 miles per hour because it has the European styling. It's one of the most it's the best car to use for this probably because if you look at the roof line, it's got this amazing shape to it.
Oh, got it. Kind of like an egg.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Except it kind of remains it's the same windows as a Camaro.
Got it. So then this is from the stock car then?
This is original.
Got it.
And this is original.
That's it?
All the rest is new. All the rest has been made by us.
Like, what about the door?
Actually, so what's funny is that since this is 73, there are some crash regulations. So even the door has been modified. So we opened up the door skins and we took out what looks like a cattle guard. It's three pieces of this ribbed stamped metal. And we pulled it out, remade the doors.
Are you able to open it?
Yeah, I can do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
The cage work is second to none.
Thank you.
It is so good.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, we've had people talk about how we could have probably gotten the cage up an inch higher, but the problem is that we needed the clearance in order to actually move the body on and off. If it's a cage that we wanted to weld in, we could have easily brought it up and welded it into the chassis or into the body, but that means that you can't take it apart the way we can.
Jeez.
Yeah. Obviously, those are the charge tubes that goes into the HD clamps with the plenum turned 180 degrees backwards.
So because they're the charge tubes, they're not going to get as hot.
Not as hot as the exhaust.
Right.
The exhaust has actually a guy of Indiana heater shield. He's really great. He's a young guy. He does great work. And he took a lot of care into this. He actually brought us in and really helped us out. But
because there's nowhere else you can go with that.
Oh,
really?
No,
right?
No.
I mean, where else could you go?
Well, we actually were part of the reason why it has to go this way is because the whole car is a flat bottom, so it has to live in that space. And on top of that, we want the whole power unit to drop in and out. So it's like a Porsche or a Lamborghini or Ferrari, how they basically, it's hard to access a lot of the engine for maintenance unless you actually drop it out the bottom. We do have some access panels that we can reach through if we need to change spark plugs or coil packs. But in terms of actual, like if we have an engine failure or a problem with the engine, basically you have to drop out the transmission, torque tube, and engine as one unit, and also the wheels and tires would come with it.
So then what kind of transmission is in it? What are you running?
So it's an Indycar extract gearbox. It was ran, I think, basically 2000 to 02. You can make it a 6 or 7 speed. We opted for the 6 speed in this. Obviously, it's a great place. It mounts our suspension, our shocks, all of it.
So then, is it structural?
Yes, it is actually structural. So if you look on Instagram, you can kind of see that like the chassis looks kind of odd because there's a massive gap in there.
Yeah.
So there's only basically this main tube coming through here that holds on the rear until you put that transmission in, and then it's a fully structural integrated piece.
I love that your dad just had this stuff laying around.
Actually, we got 10 of those transmissions, and we have, I think, 2 of them rebuilt right now. So. Yeah, that's what happens when you buy up a bunch of old racing stuff that nobody wants, and 20 years later it gets used in a build like this.
So is it air actuated then?
So originally it's just a sequential with a lever, but basically we wanted to go paddles because we wanted to be able to do some crazy tuning stuff with the engine and running the car with a shift without lift system and auto rev match and all sorts of different stuff. So basically having the paddles allows us to do some tricky stuff. So it is pneumatically shifted. You can see the air tank and some brackets. Actually, Veris, I sent them a file for this tank bracket and it fits perfect. So I sat down and designed it and they machined it out for us. But this is our tank. There's the air pump or air compressor. And then Motec offers like a pneumatic actuator. And Veris again helped us with a bracket that we had to design and we basically threaded and tapped part of the transmission in order to put that bracket on.
So then, Veris Engineering, when you put this in CFD, like, was all of this part of it?
You know what's funny?
The rear diffuser?
We still need to sit down and have a meeting with them to talk about things that we're going to do to improve the car. But I can also give you some of the report if you're interested in it, as long as they give the approval. Yeah. But it's really cool. It makes, keep in mind this is a garage build in Indiana, and we just used a bunch of Indycar bits and try to do as best as we could. But basically, the diffuser does work. It's not as efficient as it could be. The outer sections don't really do much, and at least my belief at the moment is that it's due to tire wash, the high angle, and generally some of the shape. But the center of this diffuser does work, and we'll probably find a way to get them to test with the exhaust because it's a blown diffuser as well.
Oh, okay. So the exhaust is
really hard to see. We were trying to look for it earlier, but it's basically a tube that's been slash cut. It's about that big, and it blows into the diffuser.
It's helping the downforce.
Well, that's the belief at the moment. It'll take some testing to really confirm that, but if it really does help, that's where the engine tuning can actually help it, because F1 cars, it's only effective when you're on throttle, and when you go off the throttle, it goes away, you lose that downforce. So F1 cars, what they'll do is they'll cut the fuel and the spark, and then they'll turn the throttle bodies 100% open. So you basically have the throttle 100% open for that moment, and you can still shift and stuff. And I think it's, from the research I did, it's 70-75% of the original airflow, as if the engine was 100% on with all the fuel and spark. So that will really help, and if you can keep that downforce in the corner. So we're actually talking to them about maybe developing this diffuser around a blown exhaust, but it's a matter of, like, if we move away from that, what will happen? So there's a huge amount of designing time that's going to go into this car.
This is cool because this is something that you and your dad just designed based off of knowledge and looks and kind of, your intuition.
Yeah. So,
and it's actually functional.
I would say for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part.
Anytime you do stuff in the garage and you do a whole car that took you, we think it took us 15,000 hours to complete. You're gonna screw up on a few things, but what we did right was this wing is fully functional. According to the CFD test, all the air stays attached. I think it's making a ton of the downforce. And in the front flaps work. So it's really the flat bottom all works how we want. So to have one thing that doesn't work exactly how we thought, I would say that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's crazy is these have like kind of an internal structure, I'd say. And if we want to start fendering this in, the air will any air that gets trapped in here can exit through that.
It needs to get out somehow.
Yeah. can be evacuated.
So I just heard your dad, I overheard him say something about Pikes Peak. Is that one of the goals?
Well, what's kind of funny is that like early in the project, J.R. Hildebrand, the Indycar driver, he reached out to us and he goes, Pikes Peak, and we go, only if you're driving. My dad actually spotted for him for a year at one of the Indy races.
Nice.
And it was super sweet. So we've known him a little bit, and he really badly wants to take this up. I believe Pikes Peak.
Cool.
Eventually, I think we have to get the weight down to do that, and we want to get a more refined version, but eventually we'd love to do Pikes Peak.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
It's such a amazing build.
Thank you.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
Amazing. Can you fit a bigger tire back here?
That's the biggest tire I think that you can even buy. Originally it was for a 14-inch wide tire, but this one's 15 inches wide now.
Huh. This is just so crazy. I have to like put my camera upside down just to show
if you want, we could actually try to take this Lexan out. So you can really get the camera down in there. And
I mean, that would be cool.
Okay.
How, is it going to be a lot of work?
No, it's a race car. We actually designed it so this can come out.
Okay.
And so we can do a shock change or some kind of gearing change.
Well, let's talk about the interior right now.
Okay.
Can you open that door?
Yeah.
I'm just beside myself. Does it still have windows?
Actually, it's got fully crankable windows because not only is this a race car with a license plate, it's actually full street car. So basically, you have all these knobs and switches on here, but these two are actually the signals. It's got full working headlights and taillights, and it's a street car too.
These seats actually look really comfortable.
Oh man, well, I'm 6'6", and I mean, my butt's basically 5 inches off the ground. And these are actually one of the only seats that get you low enough.
Does that work?
This? This is actually just a light. So
okay.
Just a light so you can kind of see.
And,
we just put it in here for the show, but.
What are these switches for?
These, actually Veris helped us kind of reverse engineer and machine these. So these, you remember the anti-roll bar I was talking about with the blade and the T-bar?
Yeah.
These go through and there's 5 increments. You push it down and then you can adjust it. So you just push it back, forward and back. Yeah. So it's cockpit adjustable.
So does this run?
Not the moment. We were really rushed for the show, but it's really close.
It even has all new rubber and stuff?
Yeah, it's a brand new car. And it's actually kind of funny, since it's a street car, we put a suede headliner. Actually, the CEO of Dynamat helped us out. He put some, because we need a foam material to lay against. So he put some Dynamat in, some of his Dynafoam or whatever it's called, and then we put the suede headliner in.
All you're missing is a sound system and AC.
Like you could hear it though.
Yeah. All right, so what are we looking at here in terms of like the steering wheel controls? Yeah,
it's a bit more than what you'd usually see as a track car. It's kind of closer to like an Indycar or Formula One car almost. But basically it's all CAN bus, so there's a few wires going through the steering column. You basically need one for the signal, one for the output, one for the input, power and ground. And there's a CAN bus kind of computer that figures out all the signals. But basically, this is the steering setup we've come up with. One of them's blank. One of these, I think it's the blue one. Our wiring guy did it all, and I just told him we need the signals here. But basically, we can control the power, it's specifically the torque map with one of these. So it kind of clicks in, I think, 12 different positions. There's a traction control, one of these. And I think we have one for a future ABS system. We don't have ABS in it right now. There's a push-to-pass button, which gives us a bump of a few hundred RPM. We can go in there, because we want to try to preserve the engine as much as possible. So if we're on a straight, or if we're in a corner where we don't want to quite shift up, but we need a little bit more speed, I'll click this, and I'll be able to get a little bit more speed. Here's our paddles. They're really fun to click. And then there's just a few more buttons that do other functions.
So amazing. So then, are you actually going to drive it then?
Yeah. I mean, I actually autocrossed the 72 Nova for a while. It's a resto mod. It's nothing too crazy. But as I started doing it more, I was like, okay, I kind of want to get onto bigger tracks and do bigger things. And basically, we started off kind of building like a fun track car, and now it's just this full track weapon. Yeah.
I want to see you and Riley Stair on the same track, both of you guys.
Yeah, he was at Coda last year.
Yeah,
This year.
We just saw him at Laguna Seca drive his car, so it'd be kind of cool. Not to compare the two, you know, but it's just two Trans Ams built with modern technology in this era for our generation. I guess you're a little bit of a different generation than me, but it's just really cool to see young people like yourself getting into this and just running with it.
As well, this whole project kind of started off as my dad teaching me how to do this stuff and passing his knowledge on, and seeing a lot of older techniques of doing stuff. And then it ended up kind of like we started introducing newer techniques of doing stuff like CFD, SolidWorks, or like CAD work, CNC machining. Before we were doing everything by hand and everything kind of an older technique. This is a hand-built car. Like almost, I would say, except for like there's just a few pieces that have actually been CAD modeled on this whole car. So it's all been napkin sketches.
So good. All right, thank you so much.
I
appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to support us directly, go to LarryChenPrints.com. I print and sign every single one of these. This is the perfect gift, or it's the perfect piece of art for your wall.